Hello and welcome everyone to episode number 1.5,
Actual one.
2, actual 1 of the Battle Standard podcast. The podcast where our standard is so low we can't even be considered chaff. I am your host for today, Keane, and with me is of course my beautiful co-host, Matt.
Hello, everybody.
And today I thought we would kind of continue on from last week's episode of talking about the hobby and kind of go into our favorite types of painting, I guess. Our favorite artists, if we have any, what styles we found that have really resonated with us in our hobby journey, as well as discussing painting for a hobby and painting to play on the table, and where we view ourselves in that mix of styles and what we really like to see. But of course, it is, after all, a very busy week in the world of Warhammer. Both Age of Sigmar, 40k, Horus Heresy, and the Old World, and every other system that Games Workshop has decided to come up with.
Even
So I
Black
figured,
Library's getting in on it.
yeah, even Black Library. So I figured, for a start, we would look over some of the news that's come up. Starting with, of course, the absolutely wonderful, incredible Flesh Eaters Core Army set box that is coming out for pre-order this weekend, I believe. This
Yeah, this Saturday.
And even like, let's be real, it's a fairly safe box. There's nothing too, huge in there. We don't have a lot of the characters, but what is in there is very, very nice, I must say.
Yeah, no, I'm just pulling up the contents right now to remind myself. So we have the Aberrant Ghoul King,
Mm-hmm.
the I forget the name of the new knights, but they're in the box.
The Morbeg Knights, 3 of them.
3 of them, which I think that's probably what you're gonna want to run them in anyway. So
You're either going to be running them in 3 or 6s. Depends if they can be battle line in any of the sub factions of Flesh Eater Courts. Obviously, no one's seen Battle Town yet, so we don't really know what they are.
either way, they're
battle
great
line,
models.
we've got 20 Crypt Guard and Vargulf Courtier, which is well, maybe not long awaited, but much needed refresh of the old Vargulf model.
Well, that old one's been in service since
It's time to put him out of his misery.
he's about as hold on, I'm actually curious now. That original Vargulf might be older than my daughter.
Also, apologies, dear listeners and viewers, if you can hear a slight croak or the occasional sniffle. I have been afflicted with the dreaded lurgy, and I am recovering, but it's still present.
Tis the season for germs.
Tis the season for giving and for getting sickness.
But yeah, Crypt
Yeah.
Guard, yeah, all that fantastic box. I have ordered one for my LGS. I might end up ordering 2.
I think it's probably worth it, honestly.
But
Maybe having
yeah.
2 abhorrent gore wardens might not be the best, but chances are you can turn them into one of the other abundant Flesh Eater Courts HQ models that are just big ghoul man on rock.
Just fine. And if I don't end up using the entire model, it's basing. That's a nice base I can use for something else. I already got ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Great set, definitely. Like the standouts are definitely the Morbeg Knights. I mean, we even said that when they were first revealed. I think they're incredibly cool models.
The banner is the big standout. Like I like the entire thing, but the banner there where it's just the flayed skin is an excellent touch that doesn't dip too far into haha they're knights, but still keeps that slight grisly comedy.
It's fantastic, and they all play great into the lore of the Flesh Eaters. But also for pre-order, we have Space Marines.
But
Horus Heresy edition. We have the Mark 6 Assault Squad. Now, I have to admit, there is something very funny about Games Workshop releasing jump pack intercessors, and then within a month and a half, 2 months, whatever, releasing another box that you could probably proxy as jump pack intercessors, and there's more of them in it.
yeah, there's so when I see this box, I don't immediately go to jump pack intercessors. I go to I can finally make warp talons that don't look like complete and utter dog shit.
Also, very true. If you want your Chaos Space Marines to be less afflicted by the warp, I mean, they're great. I really like their backpack design. We saw it a bit with Dominion Zephyr for the Blood Angels. He had that style, like curved backpack.
Yeah.
Honestly, I much prefer these backpacks over the jump pack intercessors. So if I was going to indulge in a bit of overspending on my hobby, I would probably end up just getting a box or two of the assault squads and taking their backpacks and just put them on jump pack intercessors because I think they look cooler.
Definitely, I'm still kind of I wouldn't say shocked. I'm not shocked, but I still do wish that instead of just an entire new kit for the jump pack intercessor, it was just an upgrade sprue like before.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's definitely, there's definitely a comment to be made there about milking as much as possible out of like the intercessor model
Well,
to
it's
turn it into, oh, you get less of them, by the way.
much like the Space Marines, it is a very versatile model if we've seen anything.
I think the big thing that I prefer over the Mark 6 personally is just the lack of a tactical rock.
Yeah, the
I think the tactical rock and the jump back intercessors makes them stupid.
yeah, I wish they would have just either gone full like flying base or stim or kept them on the ground. Not the weird in between.
What else do we have? Moving on.
So actually, I want to talk about. And this is not something either of us play, but we both like death, and I see almost the hints of something that could be used from the Middle Earth strategy battle game.
Oh, is it the clear plastic?
It is.
Yes, that is another thing that is up for pre-order. Very interesting.
I
Warriors of the Dead for Middle Earth, made entirely of clear plastic.
looks very neat. Night Haunt, I think, would love something like this.
I think they'd be cool additions to some of like the chain rasp hordes. Honestly, I could even see them being used for slightly different Graveguard. I know this is the second episode I've talked about Graveguard. Graveguard are one of the worst models I've ever experienced, and I think this kind of, if you wanted a bit more of a ethereal vibe for your Soul Blight, I think the Warriors of the Dead could be a really nice stand-in.
Definitely helps. I really love the like teal or cyan going into the white. It's really nice.
Very interesting that they've done this with Lord of the Rings because we also saw it with their the One Ring, so Frodo,
Oh, that's right.
and I think Gollum was in that kit, but it was mainly Frodo turning invisible, and that was also clear plastic. And I think it's interesting that they're trying these things with Lord of the Rings. It's cool.
Yeah, I hope to see something for Night Haunt along these lines because I think they're in a prime position to take advantage of it, at least army wise.
Yeah, definitely.
And what's last? Our Christmas model of the year.
The Grotmus Gits. If you
It's
like squigs, if you like Gits, it's a giant squig with a mouthful of presents. Which I mean, who doesn't like squigs, right? I love squigs. Squigs are great.
oh, I didn't see the grot there on the base.
I didn't either, just until there. I mean, as usual, the Christmas models usually are like kind of bursting with Christmas cheer, as it were. Usually at the expense of grots or gits. So it's honestly like it's a cool model.
I wish I could get them in store, but my local GW is currently relocating and won't be open for another
no.
month and a half.
That just means you have to support your LGS.
I always do. They treat me right, and they also do the great thing of having like 4 or 5 crates of terrain that's already painted. Because if there's one thing I don't like painting or dealing with in general, it's terrain. The last terrain box I got was for boarding actions,
Oh
and
yeah,
getting that off the sprues and put together was
nightmare.
a 5-hour process.
Yeah, the GW terrain, the plastic they tend to use in their terrains is a bit. It's not the same quality as their actual models. I've found, so they're usually a bit of a nightmare to clip out and clean. I do like painting terrain. I find it a nice break from sometimes the monotony of painting squads or single characters. It can be a nice break, but I mean they can just be annoying to do.
I guess that's an episode in and of itself talking about terrain, but that's really it for models. There's some basing material. If you like grass, there's grass. If you need to touch some, buy some.
I would, however, say don't get Games Workshop grass.
No, go get aquarium stuff.
Yeah,
Go
or
actual get real
Gamers Grass.
rocks.
Support Gamers Grass. They make really, really good stuff. I use like pretty much their entire product line. It's really good.
And then the White Dwarf, which just has some
White Dwarf even still relevant. I guess it is for people who collect.
yeah, there's some collectibles. They won't do the old army rules in White Dwarf anymore, but well, I won't say they won't because there's a chance they might.
I think if Age of Sigmar 3rd Edition is anything to go by, wherein is if you're at least this was for Path to Glory, I should say. If your army didn't have a codex, you were forced to rely on White Dwarf articles in order to get your Path to Glory rules, which was not great, I will say.
Again, that's an episode in and of itself talking about Crusade and Path to Glory and everything like that.
Oh,
but,
absolutely. We're going to do an episode on.
Yeah, new rules for boarding action, kill team, and City of Sigmar and Warcry. So there's some Warcry rules in there and some boarding action rules.
If you're a Cities of Sigmar enjoyer, maybe it's for you.
I think that covers everything.
I think that covers the pre-orders, at least for this week. For the 16th, there's a lot coming out as well, though mainly for now, Necromunda, Horus Heresy, that kind of stuff. And if you want a cop car...
Oh, right, yeah, that thing. That
Paladite Enforcer. Tauros Venator, which is a very, very cool model, I have to say. I'm not that interested in Necromunda, especially not playing cops in Necromunda. But you can do a lot of stuff with that. You can rip that thing apart, turn it into an orc bookie. You could turn it into like what are the Gene Stealer ones called?
Atlan Jackals?
No, the car, the trucks.
Goliath. There's the Goliath trucks, right?
Yeah. That's the ones. You could probably do something with that for Goliath proxy.
There's also the ATVs for Gene Stealers. So
true. Yeah.
You can have a lot of fun with this. It's I don't know if it's the actual old Forge World one that they're.
It is.
Oh, it is.
A remake of the old Forge World Tauros Venator.
So definitely fun. One of these days, I might play Necromunda. I mean, I'll start with it online because these models, despite being a very small skirmish game, are not cheap.
Also, Necromunda, honestly, I think personally Necromunda needs a redo like Kill Team did. That is a crunchy rule set. If you really like crunchy rule sets, then Necromunda's for you. But that game is dense.
Yeah, I expect... We've been on, what? This has been the current run of Necromunda for like almost, 6 years now?
Something like that.
We're probably closing in on a redo of everything, so we'll see. And hopefully with Ash Wastes, they buckle and give me Gorka Morka again.
I'm still shocked that's not been redone.
It's shout out to Mini Wargaming. Their Gorka Morka series that they did like almost 10 years ago is still like one of the best watches for bat reps. It's just a lot of fun. Seeing all the kit bashes for cars and everything, it was great.
I'd love to see Gorka Morka make a return.
It's so much fun. It's wacky races. That's all it is.
Yeah, it is. It's wacky races, but you're orcs, which is in itself, wacky races. I guess the other big thing to note for this week and the month going forward is the Advent calendar.
Oh wait, we missed one thing.
Did we?
The Thousand Suns Librarian console.
Oh, look, it's another HQ model for Horus Heresy. I mean, they all kind of blend together at this point.
But it looks really good.
If you like Thousand Suns, and I have to say, Horus Heresy Thousand Suns is like peak aesthetic. Great, very, very cool. I know I've not said it on the podcast before, but Heresy Era Thousand Suns with that like glistening cherry red, the metallic red. Oof.
If I think once I start picking into the other Mono God factions for 40k, my Thousand Suns are going to be Heresy colored.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good show. I mean, what else is there to say? He's a librarian, so he'd make a really good sorcerer for 40k.
He's got a big. He can. So with how he's like set up and everything, he's a fantastic stand-in for the Infernal Master. He doesn't have the wavy green fire hand or anything, but his big stick looks great.
Big flanged mace stick, force staff, whatever you want to call it.
Big stick. But that's it. Odds and ends, but that's not really what we're here for. We're here for the minis.
Speaking of then the Advent Rumor calendar. The Rumor Advent calendar. We're up to day 4 currently as of this episode, so I thought we'd take a little bit of time, throw out some guesses as to what we think might be coming with some of these. Some of them are a bit more obvious than others, I think. There's definitely a bit of a, I would say, order loyalist slant going on for now. But yeah, some of them are very interesting. I'm having a hard time figuring out if that's skull or not skull, sorry, the skeleton on a stick is Cities of Sigmar, or if it's going to be 40k, because I think it's more than likely Loyalist. He's got the equivalent of a purity seal on him, but the design makes me think of Cities of Sigmar.
So me and Vex were actually talking about this just prior to all this. But so if we go back and look at the first one, which is like the wings,
I believe. Yes.
my immediate reaction is a griffin. My next immediate reaction is the way they're and this could be entirely wrong. These almost look metallic.
Yeah, it's hard to pick out the details in black and white, but it could be metallic.
If it's metallic, I have no idea what it is. It could, well, it's not going to be anything Necron related. We already got our 2 models as they took everything else away from us. I don't know what else it could be if it's metallic. It might be... Who else goes heavy on metal in 40k? That's not AdMech.
With a wing aesthetic. Yeah, it's not Da Vinci enough to be AdMech, to be honest. I don't know. I think it is more than likely Old World, or it's going to be Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
I do think.
So, yeah. If it's Old World, I'm pretty sure it's like an Empire General on Griffin. If it's cities, well, we already have that one huge...
Manticore.
Yeah, the Manticore.
That I always forget the name of the model, but that is also an incredible model. The pictures that GW have for it don't do it justice. That model is crazy good.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I'm leaning towards Griffin. I give it... It's like 70-30 Griffin, and then like the 30% something metallic or robotic.
Yeah, I don't know myself. I think I would lean towards Griffin, unless it is, I don't know, could be Warcry related.
Could be.
It could be like a big bird. I mean, I know a griffin is just a big bird, but like, I mean, an actual like vulture or a hawk or something. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
that one I'm not
too
sure about. What was
So-
number 2? Was that the skeleton?
I believe day 2 is the skeleton.
Yeah, it is
Yes,
the skeleton.
the skeleton. Like I said, I think this is either Old World or it's Cities of Sigmar. I think looking at it again, the purity symbol like wax reminds me a lot of Empire.
Yeah.
So I think it could be Empire, or it could be Cities of Sigmar, especially with the very obvious flames underneath it.
I think the
Could be wrong on
flames,
that,
because there weren't a lot of old fantasy models that had like the skeleton sticking out of a brazier. That was kind of like a death thing. It'd be like the balefire brazier with
Yeah.
like a skeleton sticking out of it. I personally think this one is cities, but a bit closer, like 60-40 cities, and then also Empire for the old world.
Yeah, definitely. I think just considering the timeline currently, I don't think we're likely to see many Empire new units.
No.
And they've not even announced like the starter set for Old World, which I mean we know is going to be Bretonnians and Tomb Kings.
Tonians do love their skeletons too, but not braziers.
But so it could be a curveball and they throw out like a wacky death. But for now, I think my bets are hedged on Cities of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Day 3, this is either Necromunda or it's Guard. I don't think like this could be Necromunda. It could be on a base, or it could be Imperial Guard. I think either way, it's pretty obvious. I think it's the most obvious one so far.
Yeah, that's definitely... I think it's Guard, and with the barbed wire and skull and everything, because looking at the image, and obviously it could be photoshopped to like easily crop out other things, it looks like it's at the edge of the base.
I think it's definitely been the back of it has been chopped out.
Yeah,
because that curve is a bit stark against the white background.
Definitely,
So
but
there is definitely something there, but I don't know what.
Guard, and I think it's going to be the full range of like this will be the start of the full range of Plastic Krieg.
Oh yeah. I could see that. Maybe some new Krieg models for all the Deathcore enjoyers. I could definitely see that.
Because it just, for me, it immediately evokes trench warfare, and when I think trench warfare,
definitely.
we go to Krieg.
I think it'll either be obviously Cadian or it'll be Deathcore.
Don't worry, Catachin enjoyers, one day you'll get yours.
One day you won't look like
smaller
deformed
Grugs.
Arnold Schwarzeneggers, smaller Grugs.
And
then for today, we have... I am almost 100% certain that that is a Stormcast.
So I agree with you. I think this one is actually 50-50 for me. It's a Stormcast. It's a new named Stormcast character, or it is a fantasy model for Old World. And between that, it is either a Knight of the White Wolf, so the Ulrich Knights from Middenberg, or it is the R. Ulrich, the head priest of the cult of Ulrich.
Oh, interesting. Mind you, we might not see any of these rumor engines resolve until like 6 to 8 months from now.
Or longer.
So, or longer. So very well could be that it is an Ulrich model. I'm leaning towards Stormcast just because of the way those like three spikes pop up over the shoulder, and where the purity seals or whatever you want to call them. I don't even know what they're called for Age of Sigmar, and I have Stormcast, but the way they're positioned on the shoulder and the three spikes makes me think that it is the classic Stormcast, one big ornamental shoulder with a big design on it that the HQs tend to have, like the Lord Salasant and stuff.
Yeah.
But it very well could be Ulrich models.
It's hard
I
to
suppose
say.
we'll
We're in
have
that weird nexus right now between releases for Old World, new edition of AOS.
yeah, we definitely are. So I think it could be very interesting to see what this turns out to be. The cloak is definitely like I'm just trying to think because chances are fourth edition Age of Sigmar is looping back around to Chaos, and my bets are on Stormcast versus Skaven, and it's going to be the Skaven refresh that we have been clamoring for years at this point. Everyone who was like paying attention to some of the rumors for third edition thought that Skaven were going to come back around for third edition, and we'd be getting the line refresh like last summer, because that's typically when GW likes to put out entire line refreshes. But yeah, no, I think I am leaning more towards Old World now that I'm thinking about it aloud. The cloak is a bit off for Stormcast, but we'll see.
We'll see. I think
We will have
Old World's
to
what,
see.
February?
Yeah, that sounds about right. February, March.
February, March. So we'll probably see more previews. I forget when the next big preview is for
I don't think they've announced it just yet.
all the systems. Probably not until the new year anyway. So
Yeah, it'll be after.
so we'll,
It'll be
we'll
the last
find
of
out
2018.
then, and then we'll have 7 more rumor engines to go over next week.
Yes, another 7 more. There's more than this week. So I guess then that kind of covers all the current news that we've had over the past week or so. So I guess let's get to the main topic of today's show, which is kind of like I said at the start, a carry on from our previous talk about the hobby, and kind of looking at our favorite painting styles and our favorite artists, and then how we view painting as purely just the hobby itself, and then painting to play. So I don't know if you want to go first. I can as well.
No, by all means, go ahead and go first.
Sure. So I would say, honestly, to just get it straight out of the gate, my favorite style for 40k especially is very much the kind of weathered, almost grimdark look, especially for anything involving power armor. I'm not too big into Blanchitsu. I don't really like the Zorn color palette. It's very cool when it's executed properly, but personally I don't like being limited to just like 4 or 5 colors when I'm painting an army. For like anything display based, it's so cool looking, especially when you go into like the classic John Blanche artworks for all the AdMech and stuff.
Oh,
The foundational art for 40k as a whole. And obviously, like, Grimdark as a style and like the different versions of Grimdark within it would never have existed without John Blanche's art, and that still remains as like the key cornerstone to me of 40k as an aesthetic, and as I'm sure it does for most people who are into specifically 40k in the hobby. But carrying on for that, I guess I would say my two biggest like favorite painters in the hobby, and I've mentioned one of them before, Richard Gray. He is my number one. When I got back into doing my Blood Angels after stripping them, it was his videos on doing Grimdark Marines for the Heresy that got me back into 40k as a whole. I really, really love his use of texture and micro texture in terms of stippling, and how he uses the non-traditional methods of not just going straight for like super clean looks on his models, And obviously, he's like more than capable of doing it. He's won so many golden demons with, for example, that Mortarion from a few years ago, where he did the giant like eyes on the
Oh
wings,
yeah,
so they
yeah,
look like
that one,
moth
a
wings.
classic.
Yeah. His, I think he did a Chaos Knight as well in a similar method, and just I don't know, his use of like not overly saturated colors, like relatively desaturated color schemes, and his use of like stippling and stipple blending and glazing to achieve a still very smooth but very obviously textured surface is incredible. He is my favorite mini painter. I think I've loved everything he's put out. He did one on Dante recently that just I looked at it and was like, how do you do this? Like how do you even consider like doing his level of gold NM? And it was just insane. I tried to replicate some of it, and I was like a child smashing crayons into paper. Insanity. And my other favorite painter at the moment is definitely Fletcher Giles. He's the studio painter for Tabletop Tactics. When you see a lot of the armies he's done for them, in particular his own Farsight Enclave stuff, how vibrant he gets the red for Farsight in particular, and how he really captures like a proper metallic red for that armor. It's crazy. I've kind of followed his stuff for a long while, for a few years anyway, before he was like officially part of Tabletop Tactics. In particular, when he did the studio's Flesh Terrors army, the how deep the red is and how like dark he got the black, like really black shadows, especially on like any of the vehicles. You look at any of the impulsors, the repulsors he did, and it's just I wish I could paint to that quality. He really loves using modulation, especially where you'll see this on a lot of like really high end paint jobs, especially for vehicles, where like one panel will be really dark at the top because the flat panel on top of it is really bright, and it's just literally modulating between really bright, really dark, really bright, really dark, and you get this like super eye-catching look to it. His Flesh Terror stuff is incredible. I wish I could paint to half the quality of his stuff. It's super smooth in comparison to like Richard Gray's like kind of textured armor and like really focusing on weathering and stuff. I think that yeah, those two are definitely my top picks. And obviously, like there's so many amazing painters who like even do YouTube. Like Ninjon, obviously he does incredible work. I think I've watched every single Ninjon video he's put out since he started the channel, and I've loved seeing how he implements his own painting style into teaching people how to achieve really nice results, and especially like really quick results as well, like using a lot of colored shadows, using a lot of like mother color in painting, using a lot of different techniques. He was kind of the one that also introduced me to oil painting as well, using a lot of oil washes to quickly get through zombies and skeletons. Because if you're a death player and if you've made and painted skeletons and zombies, you know that stuff is just a drag to get through. So any way of speeding up is a lifesaver.
Anything to cut out that extra 3 hours to paint an entire horde army is always appreciated.
Oh yeah.
I,
Even like if you can reduce it like 10 minutes per model or whatever, or
oh,
however, like
it adds
two
up.
minutes per model, even yeah.
When you have
It really
blocks of
adds up.
30 infantry,
When you have
that's a
like
lot of
blocks of
time.
like 40 or 60 zombies, and it's like this is killing me.
I'm going through right now to find some pictures of Richard Gray's work to throw up on the screen, and I'm always reminded I'll never be as good at anything in my life as Richard Gray is at just painting.
I'm convinced that that man has made a deal with the devil himself, in order to get that level of painting.
I
I
have
don't see how else he's managed to do it other than dark bargains.
I have never seen this Zinchian knight he had done before.
Oh, with the shield.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I
it's
like it's incredible.
yeah. For me, obviously, Richard Gray is he's essentially the goat of painting, with just what he's able to do with practically everything: his shadows, his textures, his ability to just work a brush and produce essentially magic. Just oh, it's amazing. I'm looking at, and I'll throw it up on the screen once we get to editing. But I'm looking at his that Night Goblin Warband. They got previewed like a year back or whatever it was now.
Oh
And
yes, yes.
that squig, this actually might be one of my favorite paint jobs he's ever done.
Is it the big red squig like bouncing from a rock?
No, it's this one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like it's not fair, dude. It's not fair.
Give me 10%. Give me 10% of your skill and you'll still be one of the single best painters in the hobby.
Obviously, needless to say, like Richard Gray has a YouTube channel. Everyone should check it out. It like his videos are so good, especially if you like just kind of straight tutorial style videos that just teach you a lot about the hobby and different ways of approaching painting.
As far as another favorite painter for me, it's Pete the Wargamer.
Oh,
Pete is one. Not only is he kit bashing phenom, he is a quality talented painter, and for people that have never been in the hobby or coming back to it, he makes it fairly approachable. Very good
yeah,
tutorials. Very great way of teaching you how to do stuff.
yeah. Pete definitely does a really good job of still showing, like, I would say, the beginner levels of being introduced to painting. He definitely does still do a lot of the base wash layer kind of stuff, but he's so well versed at it and he's so practiced at it that he always gets really nice, clean results. His models always read amazingly when you see it, and when you see the videos of it. His kit bashing stuff is like actually inspiring, the amount of like effort and work he does on his kit bashes and how he's able to like find these parts that you would never really have assumed or even thought about to put together, and yet he does it and it looks incredible.
So yeah, definitely check out Pete for tutorials and also just to see some of the frankly amazing kit bashes that he has managed to do with so many different kits that it kind of makes it unapproachable for some people, but if you have a lot of bits lying around, you might be
Yeah,
able to
the
do
kit
it.
the kit bashing side of it is definitely very daunting, but at the very least his painting is very approachable, and he definitely does kind of break down and do a really good display of how you can start kit bashing. Obviously, like everyone we mentioned, put it down in the show notes. I'll put down obviously Rich Gray's YouTube, Pete's YouTube. Pete is a staple of hobby YouTube. He is like one of the goats. Honestly, he's been around for so long, and with the like massive surge in popularity 40k and Age of Sigmar and the hobby as a whole has received, especially during COVID. Obviously, it's great to see everyone who like I personally would look up to massively succeed and do really well. It's inspiring.
Most definitely. I'm just going through it. Yep, Pete's World Eaters are kind of what got me to buy the Heresy box. Now that I'm looking back and I'm remembering seeing the Heresy era Mark 6 white and blue with the gore effects. Ah, it's just so nice. What else? Painting styles. For me, right now I am mostly focused on trying to get my stuff painted so I can play with not gray models. So I employ liberally a version of Slap Chop. And crucify me if you want. It is the best way to get your models painted up quickly and not have them look like, mudmen. Like you or me 20 years ago. Um, the one thing that I kind of do differently, and I don't know how popular this is or if it's really even, made it out there yet, but because I am playing Emperor Spears for my Marines, I can't just use a regular blue. It has to be the sky gray blue.
Very specific blue,
A very
sky
specific blue.
everything.
And I don't have that in contrast, so it makes it a little hard. So what I'll do is specifically for this, and kind of in general, I could probably do it for some World Eaters, and I might test it because I have Flesh Terrors red, which will work just fine. Is obviously prime it black, go over it with a dry brush of white, and then I'll contrast. So for my Emperor's Spears right now, it's Talisar blue.
Very blue. Very blue.
Very blue, and not like the sky blue. It's more of like kind of what you would see with a contrast painted Ultramarines.
It's kind of it's an arcane blue, if you're
Yeah.
familiar with some of the older Citadel lines.
So, get that on there, let it dry, take a look. If I have to touch up a spot or two, so be it. You can actually get away with it on the more dry brushed areas. And then after that, I'll go through with another dry brush, but this time I'll use, and I've tried two different blues now. I'm still not sure which one I like yet. I'll figure that out more. But either an electric blue dry brush from Army Painter or a dry brush of Hoeth blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go over the contrast paint with that. So the kind of leaves the slightly obviously the Talisar is darker, and the good thing about that is it also makes the shadows pop a lot more while maintaining that kind of bluish color without having to manually go in there and gradient layer and everything like that. I don't know what I'd
One
call
thing,
it. I'd call it slamp chop.
slamp chop. I mean, we've used every word under the sun for every variation of slap chop at this stage.
It's something, but no, it's still low time per model. Models don't look like absolute garbage, and there are parts where you just have to go over with contrast. Like for tabards, for my Emperor's spears, I use red tabards because I like the way it looks against the blue. So,
Classic.
Blood
Classic.
Angels red, good to go.
It's so funny seeing how Slap Chop has evolved in the past like year and a half or year. Whenever Rob put out that video, I love Rob. I love the Honest Wargamer. That video was fucking hilarious to watch when it came out, and it was even funnier seeing people go absolutely ballistic over it.
You can't do that.
It's already a thing. It's called engrise. It's been in the art world for centuries. It's like, yeah, but who cares?
Nobody cares.
It's just putting a stupid name on it.
But yeah, that's what I'm using right now. Once I basically have all my Marines done, I will be switching over to much more technical styles as I have much more time to dedicate to that, and I'm not rushing to try to make sure that I have stuff to play with.
That's very fair. I mean, kind of once you get your main army done, you feel a bit freer to kind of do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, because I want to go nuts. I want to go absolutely ham when it comes to my knights.
Well, you should. I mean, they are the vessel for improving painting, to be honest.
I guess with that, it does take us over to the next one, which is painting as a hobby, painting to play, or some variation therein of.
I didn't cover mine.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't. I just talked about my favorite hobbyists.
Oh,
I didn't talk.
my mistake. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, don't worry, don't worry. So I guess like I've tried a couple of different things for my armies, and I try and do something different for every army. I've definitely, just from like a color perspective, I've definitely fallen into the trap of black and red is really cool, and
Well,
black and red is really cool.
it is. Oh, it's never not going to look good.
I have a bad habit of putting red in every single army I paint just because I love red.
Oh shit! Did I do the same thing? Hold on, Emperor Spears.
I mean, you're doing classic. You're doing like Corn World.
Yeah,
Age, right?
Corn
So
Red.
you're
That gets a pass. That gets a pass.
they are red.
No, my knights. I
So
went from red to purple. I'm good.
yeah, you're fine. You're fine. So I guess like my Blood Angels would be kind of my most technical army in terms of painting at the moment. Like I said, I was 100% inspired by Richard Gray's video on doing Horus Heresy Blood Angels. So I basically just lifted that. I do a lot of stippling to get my base layers on for my Blood Angels. I'll keep the highlights fairly limited. Usually I'll just work up through thin layers of like Mephiston Red and Evil Sun Scarlet, and then they all get a big oil wash to dull it all down again, and to kind of to dull out the transitions between the different colors. And then I just kind of I keep doing stippling up. So my Blood Angels are definitely my like grim dark, super heavy weather army. They take a lot of time because of that, but I love them, and I I really love the result of them. Especially now that I've started doing like almost inverse edge highlights, where I'll do the edges and like the bits surrounding the edges in black. So you almost get like the reverse edge highlight going, where it just looks like the armor is super banged up and weathered.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that I'm really happy with currently. And I guess I'll throw up some pictures of some of my Blood Angels just to show as an example. It works especially well on Dreadnoughts. For my Votann, they're definitely kind of a contrast army, mainly because I wanted to do yellow, and anyone who's ever touched a yellow paint knows the horror of painting yellow. But thank you, Games Workshop, for once for putting out Imperial Fist yellow. Truly the goat yellow. If you want a yellow done quickly, Imperial Fist yellow is your method for that. But I definitely I still like doing weathered on them because obviously power armor, like I said. But I try and keep it fairly limited. I like having them more so blend into the base, so there's a lot of like pigment work on the bases to blend the model into it. But I try and keep my Votann fairly limited and almost focus more on effect. I like using OSL on them, especially for like the big torches or the big like lights they have in their chest plates and all their vambrace stuff. My World Eaters now, that I've started doing them, I guess this would be kind of, they're almost like a take on my Blood Angels. Again, stolen from Richard Gray. He used an all over contrast wash and then using contrast medium almost like a thinner. And the result of that is really, really nice as well. You get a very similar result to the oil paint, but you have to work a lot quicker because obviously the difference between oil paint drying and contrast paint drying is, minutes compared to days. And I've definitely focused a lot more on blood effects and stuff and just making them grungy. So I guess that's kind of been my current progress. I definitely didn't make it easy for myself starting off. My first my Stormcast, I tried to do black NMM. Anyone who's tried black NMM knows it can very quickly go from black armor to shit steel armor and just like silver. So I definitely didn't make it easy for myself starting off. And I guess that's kind of been my philosophy with painting in general. I've even from when I just started, I was trying to do like advanced techniques that I didn't have the skill for.
I mean, it's a great way to cut your teeth, though. So
yeah, I think it's definitely served me well because I know what not to do now.
Oh, I'm gonna try to do silver NMM for my Necrons.
Jesus, that's a lot.
I want to do. It's weird because obviously Necron's got to have a whole dynasty and everything, but I don't feel like destroyers belong in the dynasty itself. So I have my actual dynasty colors. I want to do silver NMM, and then like red for like the effects.
I've not actually seen many Necrons done with red OSL. Most people tend to go for like orange. I've seen a fair few orange OSL colors for Necron energy, and obviously like the classic green. You can't go wrong with green. Red is could be really cool against silver armor.
Very Terminator-esque.
Yeah. All of your Necrons are T1000s now.
If only they were as durable. That's
If only.
that's something for another time. That covers yours now, right?
Yeah. So I guess painting as a hobby and painting to play. What we feel about like the two different approaches, really, to painting in the hobby. So I think it's interesting because you definitely come at it from a perspective at the moment of painting to play.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm definitely painting as a hobby.
And I guess for me really is I do very much enjoy the gameplay side of 40K. And in general, I just like wargaming. GW has had a monopoly on what I play, so, slight bias there. But for me, I love playing the game itself. I love the tactical aspect of it. I do like that it is an extremely social game where you have to be talking to somebody. Usually.
Yeah, don't be one of those people who don't talk to your opponents.
Yeah, no, it's your even competitively when you're playing to win, you're still try to have some amount of fun with it. Don't optimize literally everything out of the game until it's just dice and minis, because then there's no point to playing.
I saw a quote from, I think, the best Age of Sigmar player at the time. I don't remember his name, forgive me. That he said when he goes to a tournament, he aims to make 5 friends, he doesn't aim to play 5 games. You know, that kind of. So it's kind of switching that perspective of being entirely game focused, but also like, yeah, it's a social hobby at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're like the point. You want to show off your models. You want to play games. You got to interact with people for both. But yeah, when I really got back into it, I was working for a brokerage where I had, I was friends with the IT guy, thank God, and a few of my other colleagues that I got into the game, and for them they actually wanted to play, which was a very good reason for me to actually paint models instead of just staring at them for a long time. So I needed to get models quickly. That's why I was, employing a version of Slapchop to do that as fast as possible so I could actually play. But I do, like I said, I want to transition over to more technical styles and getting better at that. So I'm going to be sitting at a happy medium of painting as a hobby, but I also still want to put those models on the table to play.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of the goal for the vast majority of people who want to play. You definitely obviously get outliers who only want to get models on the table as fast as possible, which is fine. But I think most people kind of just want to have a nice looking army that they can be proud of, so that they can actually play the game.
And whatever the choice is, don't harp on people.
Yeah, like you should never harp on people for doing what they enjoy, and like really, especially when it comes to the hobby. Like there's so much, or there was less so perhaps these days. There's a lot of elitism around like painting, and I definitely fell into that trap when I first started, and I was like so focused on just making sure my stuff looked good. I definitely fell into that trap of kind of almost looking down on people who use what you would consider more simpler methods, like dry brushing using contrast paints. But I've like personally at least I've grown out of that. I think it's a really toxic mindset to be in. Let people have fun. Let people paint however they want to. You do your thing, they do their thing. You should, and people should be happy for each other. Yeah, I mean, I would just say briefly as well. Like, I definitely paint the hobby.
Yeah.
In my area, there's not a lot of gaming going on. There's a couple of LGSs, but one of them is quite far away from me at the moment, and one of my other locals, they don't really do like spontaneous games. It's very much just a place of like people book a table, they go into play, and that's kind of it. There's no real like, because it's mainly a card focused shop. Obviously, like that tends to be what you'll find. Most LGSs will be usually like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh focused. When I started, it's definitely still focused more on painting as a hobby and how I can improve myself with my painting and get to a level that I am really happy with and that I'm really proud of. And it's slowly getting there, slowly.
I am blessed in that we do. I think I have 3 LGSs near me. My favorite one, where I do most of my shopping anyway, is very 40K and AOS focused. They have 3 or 4 playable tables at any given time, so it's definitely helpful to have an LGS where you can actually play with people.
Definitely. Support your local LGS if they're not dicks. If they are dicks, then either find a better LGS or don't support them.
Either or. But yeah, support your LGS. They're important to the hobby. They get people in. They provide you with a usually good group to play with and learn with.
Yeah. Like my local games workshop, I really like the guys in there, but they don't really do any like social events anymore. They used to do like painting and games days, but I think after COVID and having to move location, they've stopped doing that, which is a bit of a bummer that it's happened like as I was getting into hobby for me personally anyway. But yeah, if you have a good local, support them. Because they're the best way of like actually getting to know people in the hobby and like enjoying the hobby to its fullest.
All right.
Do we want to broach the subject of casual versus competitive play?
We can broach it and keep it broad, and we probably won't go over that 30 minutes. This will definitely spin off into their own things. So
Absolutely. I mean that this topic alone is like it can get a bit spicy. It can go on for a while.
casual play versus competitive play. And by casual play, we mean like playing with your friends or crusade games, stuff like that,
Yeah,
where it's
versus
not super optimized lists.
Where you're taking stuff because you like the look of it, and who cares if it doesn't do the most optimum thing, or you're not milking every single point out of your list for as much as you can get out of it.
You start us out. What's your take? Do you want casual play? Do you want competitive play? Do you want a mix?
So I definitely want a mix. I think it's interesting because both of our backgrounds is not exclusively war games. Generally speaking, we've played a lot of competitive games between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're both big League of Legends aficionados.
Yeah, we're animals.
If you, yeah, we're degenerate. So I think it's interesting looking at wargaming competitively coming from that very video game focused background. I love the numbers of competitive play. I like looking into, what makes a really strong list, and the ideas behind those really strong lists. But mainly, I would say personally from lack of experience, because honestly, despite being in the hobby for about 3-4 years now, I've not really played a lot of the game. I've not really played a lot of the tabletop. So I definitely come at it more from a theory perspective for now. I definitely do want to play more, but I would say personally, I lean more towards a mix of both, but leaning, I would say, towards casual play at the moment.
Definitely. And for myself, I do have that very long background with the game. I played a lot. I played at a number of local tournaments and everything like that. Being in high school, I couldn't travel far for GTs or anything, but I did have a lot of, LGS tournament play, which, quality may vary, but everything like that. For me, I even with all that, I do like competitive play. I am by default I love to play to win. I'm competitive by nature. It's just how I am. I like to win the things that I do. But my biggest gripe with really any Games Workshop uh war game in competitive is that most of the time the armies that you like to play or are playing will, within, I don't know, let's say 2 or 3 weeks of the codex or index or whatever it might be coming out, they do not, and there's one exception to this and I'll get into it, they do not retain the flavor of their army because they're so optimized to win the game that you're playing that you don't bring stuff that is fluffy anymore, which is fair. But when I play, as an example, when I play Necrons, I want to bring Lich Guard. I want to bring like 2 squads of Lich Guard at 10 squads of each, or a squad of 10 each, and it not feel like I'm wasting my time by bringing them. I don't know what the codex is going to look like because I'm still waiting on mine to show up, but as of right now, I will bring maybe a block of 10 or a block of 5. And really, in terms of anything else, well, I don't know what warriors are going to look like. It looks like I'm going to be swapping over to immortals. But the feel of Necrons, in my opinion, is kind of being lost in competitive play, where it's, well, not in the index. The index was great for like the Silver Tide, where it felt like your robots were just standing back up and they didn't deal a ton of damage or anything, but it would just took a hour to get through 20 warriors. Whereas now it's like, the best one's Canoptic, Court, it's Spiders, it's Wraiths. It's not stuff I like, it's stuff other people like, but when I think of Necrons, I do think of dudes. Lots of dudes getting shot and then getting back up.
Yeah, like Silver Tide is definitely the go-to image of a Necron army.
And yeah, that's just an example of, like, I don't feel like that's going to be the case in competitive play. Another another bad case of, no, well, I guess Blood Angels kind of got some flavor back with the jump pack intercessors.
Sort of.
Sort
I mean,
of.
Blood Angels are an interesting case because for the longest time in ninth edition, you were entirely like your entire army was basically Sanguinary Guard, and that's probably the one thing that I really hate about Games Workshop balancing, where a lot of the times your army comes down to just like 1 or 2 incredibly strong units that everything else either is just there to chaff or to synergize with. I like mixed arm forces, so having Blood Angels be basically entirely reduced to just the effectiveness of Sanguinary Guard, and like one stratagem that you were using on them was definitely a bit of a feels bad moment.
Yeah.
I think in general, ninth killed a lot of the flavor for a lot of armies. Not for all of them, but for a lot of them, especially coming out of Psychic Awakening. I think especially for Blood Angels. I mean, obviously they're the army that I have the most experience with in terms of like knowing how they were and how they are currently. So losing stuff like on Wings of Fire, losing a lot of their charge and fallback tech that they had in 8th edition, and then never really seeing it again is definitely like feels bad.
But if you do want to keep flavor in an army, it's bog standard Marines and Gladius.
Yeah.
That is the most true to fiction detachment of Space Marines that you can get. They can do it all because that's what Space Marines can do. And that's why it's the detachment I run when I run Space Marines. It's because I get to bring all of the units that I like. And I don't
Yeah,
feel bad about doing it.
You definitely don't. That's exactly what I was going to say as well with Gladius. You don't feel like you're ruining your army by taking, for example, if you didn't want to bring Blade Guard and you had like what's a good comparison for Blade Guard? I'll do it from the perspective of Blood Angels. If you didn't want to take Blade Guard and instead you wanted to take like Death Company with jump packs and a chaplain, you don't feel like you're gimping yourself by not taking those Blade Guard. Whereas in some of the other detachments, especially like Firestorm or the one that's definitely not just Iron Hands, you're pigeonholed into a certain type of list. Which I mean, that's kind of the good thing about detachments. But the problem with detachments is also that in classic Games Workshop fashion, 2 or 3 of them are really good. One of them is the best one, and the rest are terrible. Like I don't know what they were smoking when they came up with that first company detachment. How can
So
you make like the what is supposed to be like the
the
most
best of the
important,
best.
the best of the best in a chapter, and it's like the worst option you can take?
I am forever so, and I get it. Personally, I wish the first company detachment kept old Oath of Moment. I understand that
Yeah,
would have made them the best. No, I don't even know if it would have done that. We'll talk about that later. But it definitely feels bad. I love playing first chapter. I love Terminators. I love Blade Guard. I love my characters. I love seeing all them do stuff, and just seeing that detachment absolutely go under the desk is awful. But Gladius still feels good.
yeah. Gladius is definitely the most.
And
Like if you just want to play Jack of all trades, Space Marines, which is kind of the the
that's it.
the typical Space Marine, it is Gladius.
And I think that's the best part is you're going to have Marines that shoot bolt guns. You're going to have tanks. You're going to have your close combat specialists. And then you're going to have your alpha striking Terminators or whatever else deep strikes that drop down on whatever turn you need them to come down on to do something amazing, or to have
Yeah,
that linchpin moment where you go, "Oh, that was a great part of the game."
and I think there's a lot of flexibility even within Gladius for like substitute units. Like the typical run now is what, 6 Boltstorm Gauntlet aggressors with a Primaris. What's the other dude? Not
Biologus.
Biologus. Yeah, the Apothecary Biologus. Mister, I'm not a doctor.
I'm a scientist.
I'm a scientist. But like you can even sub them out for other like Terminators are a good replacement for that kind of frontline, get in, shoot hard, hit hard, hammer unit.
Yeah, it's just that you having the options, and like I said, just not. I don't feel bad for taking units I like because you can. I think for the most part, you can fit if you wanted to any actual Marine unit into Gladius, and it's probably going to do something.
That may be Vanguard veterans. I don't think Vanguard
No,
veterans
they're
do
bad.
anything.
They're just bad. That's a bad
Rest in
unit.
peace. Oh, why did they do that to the Vanguard vets? Oh,
I
I feel
remember
so
my
bad.
back in my days of ninth. Those were the only firstborn units you took.
Vanguard vets with a lightning claw and a storm shield.
Oh, rest in peace, Vanguard vets. Rest in peace, Thunderhammers. But yeah, no, I lean much more towards casual play just because I like fluffy lists. I like
Oh, absolutely. I mean, fluff and lore is like I'm of the opinion, even if you are playing a competitive army, it should still be fluffy.
yeah.
Like you should still feel attachment to your dudes. It shouldn't just be like I'm putting down this unit of 5 Space Marines who I've just painted whatever color because I think that they're the best army at the time. There is something, you know, maybe it just calls to the fact that we're both horrific like D&D nerds and like dramatics and like drama kids that like no, I want to name my units. I want them
Absolutely.
to have meaning within the setting and to myself. And I think that definitely does obviously play into like narrative and casual.
Oh yeah. So don't say neither of us have played a Crusade game.
Not yet. I
Not
have
yet.
played Path to Glory in third edition AOS. I played a bit of it in second edition.
I played
But
Old Path to Glory and Fantasy.
I really liked third edition Path to Glory. I think some armies were definitely a bit more gimped by unit selection than others, but that's just kind of like that's the hand you kind of have to play. For example, Orc War Clans, because I've said before, I only really focus on Iron Jaws, so I didn't really get the whole enjoyment out of Path to Glory Orc War Clans because I only really wanted Iron Jaws, and because Iron Jaws at the time, and even kind of now, has such a limited selection of units, you always felt kind of like, oh, well, I guess I'm just taking brutes, Gargantas. I'll work up towards a mega boss on Maw Crusher at some point. But I think Crusade is definitely something I really want to get into. It's I love narrative in general, and the fact that ninth edition's Crusade was pretty good. It was a good foundational point for them to
And
build off of.
us and one of our other friends do have a Crusade game planned. We're going to be starting
Yes,
with Pariah Nexus.
yes,
And I think at this point it is until they announce the Pariah Nexus rules. I was going to run orcs for fun, but with Pariah Nexus being announced, I've switched back to Necrons. I think
so
at this point it's going to be Necrons versus AdMech versus Leagues.
yeah, I think I'm either on leagues or world leaders, but I think I'm definitely leaning towards leagues at the moment.
I don't. We'll see. Leagues are still strong, so I don't. I think you'll be fine even without
Yeah, I think
a
that
codex for Crusade rules. But I mean, you get access to
yeah,
all the relics and everything
you get
that are in the
access to all the
book.
base
So
relics. Yeah, all the stuff that's in the core rule book. That's the words I was looking for. I'm afflicted.
once we get that up and running, we might have a spot here or there for updates on what's going on in our section of the Pariah Nexus.
I think it'd be cool. I definitely do want to, shine a bit more of a light on the narrative side of it because I think it's a bit underrepresented and I think it kind of gets a bad stick. I think people maybe lump it in too much with the idea of like super casual play. Like,
I don't agree with that for one reason, and I think Crusade is one of the single best ways to start and paint an army.
oh, 100%, absolutely, 100%.
You learn the base rules with a it's 1,000 points. You start out with 1,000 points since power level's gone and all that. It's 1,000 points of stuff you like, so it's going to be stuff you're motivated to paint, and you're going to learn the base rules of your faction and the base rules of those units, and you're going to slowly build
Yep.
and slowly paint. So if you have a
And then,
Crusade game or a friend group who's been interested in the hobby, we get 40k or AOS. Look at Path to Glory, look at Crusade, and I would say start there because you're going to have low model count, fairly low commitment financially and time wise, and you can take your time doing everything.
the fact that it is so relatively low investment as well, and like you can absolutely just get the models that you want, that you like the look of, that you like the lore of, it's definitely the big appeal. And the fact that like your troops, your HQs have meaning, like you can upgrade them. You can if they're wounded or dying in Space Marine case, you can stick them in a walking coffin. I think giving your army meaning is like the best thing with narrative and Crusade.
That's the last thing on our list. We'll obviously touch over competitive stuff as GTs come up and as either of us or our friends go to GTs.
Yep.
And I think it is a relatively good idea if we do, every once we do start up Crusade, every 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes here or there, just to shine a bit of a light on what's going on and why crusade and narrative play is actually fun.
And honestly, probably the most important part of an army, in my opinion. Other than the painting, it's like you're not going to enjoy painting an army or playing an army that you have no attachment to.
Yes, 100%. If you on and again, that's not to say if you get your enjoyment strictly out of competitive play, that's totally fine. But yeah, for me, if I don't have a connection, I'm not gonna play the army. I'm not gonna collect the models. I have no interest in playing. That's why I don't play Eldar. That's why I don't play a lot of armies that are still out there. Like not even just the in terms of monetary investment or whatever. I just don't. I don't care enough about the faction.
So I think that covers everything we wanted to talk about this episode.
That is, yeah, that's everything. That's really our episode 0, episode 1 covered, most of the big stuff of who we are, where we're coming from, and our aims for ourselves in the hobby moving forward, which opens us up to a lot more freeform things
Yeah,
starting next
definitely.
week.
You're going to see a lot of terrible content. We're of course going to do tier lists.
You'll know it's an off podcast episode when our funny little pictures have hats on. So when you see that, you'll know it's not your regularly scheduled Battle Standard podcast and potentially a tier list or something else. Who knows how many episodes of those we'll put out, but
I have some ideas. I have a good few ideas for stupid tier lists.
I have some as well.
Everyone loves a good tier list. They're
My
trashy, but they're the junk food of content creation, to be honest.
a look into my idea involves the Primarchs and bringing in a special guest.
I also we'll talk about this off air. I also have an idea with that.
But we'll maybe give some teasers and some some actual whatever the hell it is we're talking about at a future date.
For now, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. God, I hate saying that.
We have to shill at least for a little
we
bit.
have to chill.
All of our links will be down below. We'll see about plastering them all over the screen like terrible billboards, but we're growing, we're learning. Eventually we'll have this down to a enjoyable science.
Yeah. Every episode, every video we make is an evolution in the process. We do not promise high quality, but we promise higher quality.
we promise an amount of quality that varies from week to week, whether or not it's greater or lesser, find out.
Make sure to watch.
Watch to find out, watch to learn, watch to potentially do other things, and I don't know. That's really about it. I'm just rambling at this point, so we will see everyone next week.
For episode 2, question mark?
Yeah, no, 2.
Technically 3.
Technically 3, but actually 2.
But actually, officially 2. So again, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and enjoy.